So I ask you, how many females want to become pilots?
Oh, here's
how
the thing.
many males want to become pilots and why?
In that same breath, I will first of all, flying, having the desire to pilot this big ship from one edge of the country to the next. You remember we talked about a spectrum of masculinity, falls way on the masculine side. Okay, does this mean that there's no females who wake up with that desire? Heck no. There's badass F-16, F-17, F-18, F-35, F-22 pilots who will kick the butt of any male pilot we know.
I know a badass F-18 pilot whose call sign is Perm.
Perm.
Because of her curly hair, obviously. So her call sign is Perm.
There's some badass female pilots.
She is probably going to NASA.
Dude.
Obviously, people are talented and capable.
We're done with the days where we think women can't. Women could do anything they want to do.
Correct.
Everyone knows
Let me
that.
stop you there and focus on that. We're done with those days. Why?
What do you
Why
mean?
are we done with those days? I mean,
Because
we
they
made
proved.
huge. How come? Like, what were the methods?
How did they prove?
Yeah, how did we leave those days behind us?
Because there's not one thing that you tell me a woman can't. There's few things left. Yes, we haven't had a female president of the United States.
Oh, okay, never mind. Never mind what gaps are left to be filled. We've
Okay.
left behind the
not one
idea that they
thing-
can't be the president.
Right,
We've
because
left behind.
there's not one thing you could.
How did
point-
we achieve that?
First of all, I think women have a lot to do with it and a lot to thank for that, because I don't think it was the males who got together and said, let's make females do all the stuff they want to do and be like us. I don't think that's the case. So I think, first of all, I think it has females are again, I'm not an expert in history, probably a lot to do with that, fighting for it in whatever the various methods are. But also, just you talking before with this Taiwanese pilot. Dude, when I hear stuff females have to go through, I feel for them. I'm so thankful I don't have to be a female. You know, the stuff, even today, you're a 13-year-old girl, you tell your dad, I want to be a pilot. Your dad will probably look at you and say, go play with your dolls. Do you know how much that sucks? Because
Man.
think about that.
That's terrible.
You're starting out with a disadvantage.
That's so many disadvantages.
Dude, it sucks. I feel for them. It sucks. And when I hear these stories of people talking that way about women, I'll give you an example. Nurses. Let's flip it around.
Sure.
Nurses for years was female, right? Majority female.
Correct.
Right? My brother's in nursing school right now. He's a dad and he has 3 kids and he's going to support his family. Imagine he had to feel weird about becoming a nurse. That's disgusting, right? He's going to do something that he's clearly passionate about. He wants to be a nurse and not something else. Passionate about nursing. I
mean, heck, let's go ahead and turn this table all the way around then.
Yeah, he's passionate about it.
What about the jobs that are historically feminine in nature that now, say, straight males want to go do?
Take me.
For example.
I've been a flight attendant for 8 years.
That's right.
Yeah.
And did you feel weird about being a flight attendant?
I felt zero weird, but...
Zero weird. Hang
Zero.
on a second.
Zero.
Describe... I believe you because you're telling me.
But I'm not one to feel weird.
But
I'm the wrong person to
You're
ask.
the wrong person to ask. So describe for everyone who's hearing us, like you and me basically, and maybe some other guy we emailed this podcast to, but describe for all 3 of us the demographic of flight attendants. Go.
The demographic of flight attendants.
Divided by gender first.
Are you talking about gender? Okay, gender first.
Sure.
These are all guesses. I'm going...
Ballpark it, no problem.
I'm going 70% 75% industry-wide, 75% female. 70% female, 30% male. Lots of males these days.
All right, great. So let's wind it back 8 years to when you started.
Probably
yeah?
a little less.
Okay, so 20%?
Sure.
It's an easier number to divide.
Sure.
Possibly, depending on where you go with this next.
Sure, 20%.
How many... Okay, so what do most of those men have in common?
So now we're entering into different ways of splitting it. So
Yes,
now
we
we're
are.
looking at sexuality.
Oh, okay. So that was your go-to, not mine, but you said it and not I.
I'm asking.
Because you have the inside track. That was the first thing that jumped to your mind.
No, of course. So let's call it what it is.
Please.
So we started with gender.
All
we
right.
said 70-30.
All right.
Sexuality. We take the 30 other men.
All
What
right.
percentage are gay? What percentage are straight? I'm going 70-30. Same, probably. That's my guess.
70 gay, 30 straight?
Yes.
All right. So as a straight male, you'd be 1 in 10 of the workforce.
Yes.
All right. Do you think there are 1 in 10 flight attendants are straight males?
I think.
Let's say they are.
Yeah.
Why
yeah,
not?
I do.
All right.
Yeah.
So 10 to 1. Okay. And you didn't have to feel weird about that.
Not
Even
at all.
though 30 years ago there were 0 straight males or 0 males, period.
I didn't feel. Here's the thing, though. I'll tell you why I'm the wrong person to ask. I think if you're someone who feels weird working in a group of which the majority male are gay, you wouldn't become a flight attendant to begin with. And so,
Right, there's some selection bias in this.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
I became a flight attendant and I flip and love it and I have nothing bad to say about it, and every person I've ever worked with is amazing, and I have 0 problem working. I don't care what people's sex. I don't care if you identify as an it. For all I care, we're serving Coke, and then we go home. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't care about any of these things. So I'm probably the last person to ask that question, because there was not only 0 weirdness. I have so much fun working with. I mean, it's just incredible. You meet these different people and from different parts of the world, and people have different stories, and it's an amazing job. So I'm 0 weirdness, 100%, 100%.
So you're making it hard to turn the tables because you're saying that, but let me ask you then, if you're a female, is it then more difficult to work in an environment of a bunch of males than a male who works in the environment of a bunch of homosexual males or females?
I think so.
Okay, so then in that case, we can say with great certainty, because this is the only example I could think of.
Can I say why I think so?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
It's my guess. I think it is the case because males, unlike female, right? And I'm curious what you think, if you'd agree with me on this one. Who would have a more difficult time being equal with a male with a female? Think back 70s captain of an airplane. A male with a female or a female with a male? Just I'm asking you, who do you think? Take a guess. There's no right or wrong here. We're both not experts.
For me to say that it would be easier for a male to feel equality with a female than vice versa would be, almost as arrogant as the pilot I am. Because
wait a minute.
that supposes that men have every quality necessary to do anything a woman can do, and we shouldn't feel very challenged to rise to that occasion, whereas women should have to face more challenges to be equal to males. Now, wait.
I'm not sure what you said there.
Okay.
So I'm just strictly asking.
I reject the premise.
Picture a 1955 captain sitting in the left seat.
Okay.
He is male.
He is, guaranteed.
Take everything you read in the books of 1950s aviation captains.
Sure.
Okay?
In that era.
He's in that seat. He's wearing his flippin' hat while he flies. He's flying all over himself. He's like a man's man captain.
He is.
Great. Here shows up
He loves himself. He's so sure of it.
Here shows up Christina, little, cute Christina, blonde hair. Her pilot has way too big on her face. She's wearing pants. The whole pilot shows up, cute makeup, and she shows up. She says, "Hi, I'm Christina." Before this dude could figure out if she's a flight attendant or not, she says, "Hi, I'm Christina. I'll be your co-pilot, the other pilot for the entire trip." In that moment, and don't go to the whole, yay, she's a female, be an exciting trip. Just strictly in terms of, in that moment, this dude, would he have an easier or more difficult time than if the captain was female and the FO that showed up was male? Take your guess. And whatever you say, I respect.
I can tell you with experience from being the captain with a female first officer and being a first officer with a female captain.
You've had both, okay.
Yeah, we've been in both kind of scenarios over here. Maybe that's bad description. Bad way to say it. But nevertheless, having been in both seats with a female in the opposing seat, the dynamic of each one is different. I don't know that it's different for reasons that I am producing or reasons that they are producing.
Interesting. So you two are the wrong person to ask.
Possibly.
Got it.
I'll tell you with great certainty, the best co-pilots I had at China Airlines were statistically heavily weighted toward females. Heavily.
Why?
Great question. Also, I'm not entirely sure that it was statistically heavily weighted toward females of the worst ones I also had, because there were just, statistically so few of them. So even if you had one that stuck out as just awful. But let's say let's say they were equally bad on the male side as the female side. If they were equally bad, and let's not delve too deep into who could be worse by quantity, because there just weren't that many women. But it speaks major volume about my flight deck that the females were definitely choice pilots. Kind of every time you could guarantee it, minus the one or two exceptions who were just kind of terrible, like bad at everything kind of thing. That wasn't exclusive to women in any stretch, by the way. So I'm thinking of my top 5 co-pilots for my entire 3-year contract at Cal. And I promise you, I can see 4 of their faces. I can think of the other 2's names. Heavily weighted toward females. Why is that? It's because they were better at what they did? I don't actually know. But we just got along better. So there might be a lot to, the very simple dynamics of male female than that are, or in fact, pilot co-pilot, that are more important than someone's individual flying skills, which would possibly lend itself to forcing the issue in your hiring, because generally you'll meet those skills. Now, I don't know if that'll flip when people go to the left seat, or if some people were kind of rushed into the job and they weren't quite ready or didn't get their time, and now they're being flushed over to the left. But we're now seeing that with men and women. Yeah. So it's going to be hard to parse that out or even tell. So I get back to your original question. I think, would it be harder for a female in the 50s to appear as the first one?
Let me ask the question a different way.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, would a male have an easier time in the 50s? Let's go back to the 50s, because that's an easy way to think about this, because today everyone's like...
I don't think a male would have an easy time being a flight attendant in the 50s.
Right, but let me ask the question differently. In the 50s, would a male have an easier time admitting to the world that a female could do everything he can in terms of performing a job? I'm not talking about lifting a weight amount. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about in terms of I could be president, you could be president, I could be a pilot.
Let's take pilots out of it, because no one can be a better pilot than me. And that's how all of them think, right?
Let's talk about jobs. I could be an astronaut, you could be an astronaut. Like, I could do this, you could do. Would a male have an easier time admitting that females can too? Or would a female have an easy time admitting that males can't do? That's almost an easy one, John.
Yeah, it's not even a question. I mean, it's not even about admitting. It'd be about like having someone believe it.
Right. And so to answer the question, I think that is why women are up against and have been up against what they are. Not because they can't. Like we said, we've already proved what they need to prove. Not me. I'm not female. They proved. They've gone to space. They've done it all. We get it. But I think the reason they're up against all that is because they have males to deal with in the world. And males, unfortunately, I don't know if it's part of what makes us male. I don't know what it is. It's beyond my scope. But I think that has a lot to do with it. I very much don't think the level of ease that a female would have in admitting that a male could do everything she can, I don't think that's shared equally between men and women.
No, certainly not, because that's not the cultural narrative anywhere I know. Well, I take it back. Look, there are such things as gender roles, and we're always talking about our Western philosophies and our Western this and our Western that, but the male is not necessarily superior to the female in everything or even anything, depending on what culture you dip into. I think we would serve ourselves in our country, in our culture, to look into the opposite example, where like we have a matriarchal society or women who do the things that we classically associate with men doing here. I'm thinking of a tribe, actually more than one, who raise their children very differently. Women raise the children. Women are in charge. Women select a male, get rid of the male. Women raise their children not with their mate, but with their brothers.
What?
That's it. Women are in charge.
It's real tribe?
Yeah, I didn't make this up.
Where are they? Who are these?
I'm not an anthropologist.
So you know they exist, you don't know like where?
Yeah, I read about them in anthropology classes.
Whoa.
So, this is going back some time. But yeah, this is a place where this is how they do things. They just do things categorically different than we do.
Imagine a world where you're a dude wanting to be a pilot and all the females around you are saying, hey, fine, go be a nurse. Go do something
Exactly.
else.
Sorry, you can't. That's not for you.
Just think about that, how much that would suck.
It would be awful, right? It
Think
would.
about it.
So, for me, I feel like that would be awful. Now, does our society work one way better or one way another? Okay, now we're like into the weeds, but
Yeah.
that is one way of doing things that they do. And there aren't that many of them, which may say something.
I also don't know if I agree with that. I think to a large extent, lines have been blurred. On the one hand, men and women have always been and will always be different, period. On the other hand,
Until we're no longer this kind of human.
as time went on, fast forward to 2022, we do live in a society where the opportunities of men and women is vastly different than what it was 100 years ago.
True.
Does that mean men and women are no longer different?
Certainly not.
Good. And that's where people get the lines blurred. The fact that a female and male could both go to space, many people get that confused with, oh, they're now the same. Not true. Men are men, women are women. We have cultivated a society in which both of these different things have the opportunity to do these bunch of stuff.
So is it taboo if a woman wants to be, is it more taboo if say a collegiate aged female would,
What's a collegiate?
say university aged
Collegiate? I've never heard that word.
collegiate athlete?
Collegiate athlete. Let me real quick crawl from under my big rock.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. It's almost like you didn't live here for a length of time. So
That was pretty
an
amazing.
18 to 22-year-old female
Uh-huh.
plays sports or doesn't want anything to do with sports.
What do you mean?
What is more taboo? A woman,
a 22-year-old female playing sports or not wanting to do this day and age? Equally not taboo.
equally not taboo.
Yes.
Okay, so what about in 1960?
I'm assuming I wasn't living
Surely
then.
a woman playing sports is taboo.
I
We
would
have
assume.
softball because
right.
of that.
I would assume so.
Right, it's just
Yes.
a relic.
Yes.
Women surely could play baseball.
Yeah.
Right? Come on.
Yeah.
But they play softball instead.
Yes.
That is certainly an artifact of the
Yes.
fact that women were not allowed to play and given something easier to hit and all this garbage.
Yes.
I mean, I guess the truth is I don't know the history of softball, but yeah, I think the point stands whether that step is
Where's the word soft come
sound.
from? I get the ball part.
softball and hardball. I'm not really entirely sure, honestly.
That's
So
so
let me
interesting.
leave that behind because I'm just guessing. But it's pretty obvious that now it is not taboo for a woman to be playing sports in college.
Right.
Is it taboo for a woman to think that women have better things to do?
What do you mean?
I guess it's taboo for anyone to assign in this country to assign a role to someone based on their gender.
What do you mean?
Okay. Imagine you read on paper and you don't know the author. A woman should be at home. A woman should take care of her man.
Okay.
A woman should, etc.
Okay.
Now, there's like a piece of masking tape over the author's name,
Okay.
and I'm about to pull it back.
Okay.
Now, do you think that's going to be a male who said that or a female who said that?
Equally not sure. It could be very 50-50.
Okay, so it could be 50-50.
Yeah.
These days it could be 50-50.
Very much 50-50.
Right. So there is a legitimate perspective that the gender roles are important. And males aren't the only one who have that vision.
Gender roles are important to some people.
Some people and
some
to their
people
cultures.
assign a higher level of importance to gender roles than others.
Right.
Some people don't assign any. I'm not here to tell anyone how to think. I can only speak for myself and how I see things. But as far as I'm concerned and from my perspective, and back to what we talked about, men and women are so different to the point where if you're a man and you want to become a woman, here's how different they are. You got to chop things off. You got to get implants. You got to start, going under a hormone treatment.
You have to take dramatic steps.
It's dramatic. Here's how different men and women are. Dramatically different.
Thanks for that. I think we got that point. So then good. Because I want to walk back from that into that statement about gender roles.
Okay.
So we acknowledge that men and women are different.
Vastly.
Every
But-
part of our conversation has had to acknowledge that as a base level.
And by the way, and this is a given, but I'll throw it in there. We're vastly the same too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And these differences that manifest are minimal in the scale of a person's 100-year life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Or 50-year life.
But this is where the
Or 5-year
conversation.
life.
But this too, it's impossible to say. Yes, men and women are different, but if you specifically talk about a topic, you have to very much define what are you looking to figure out, whether or not
I think
the
we're
same or not.
zeroing in on it then, because men don't give birth, as I understand it.
Of course.
So also we have evolved as a species. Children really need their mothers.
Okay.
Pardon me.
So polite.
Pardon me.
You gave me a double pardon me. Beginning and end.
Right. So children need their mothers. They also need their fathers.
Right.
But for different reasons.
100%.
Now there's no getting around some biological things here. I wouldn't even know why we'd want to get around them.
Right.
But say we wanted to get around them, we'd have to get around them.
Right.
They exist. We can. I think everyone can acknowledge that.
Right.
So if we start there and say in the context of, and if we don't extend it too far, we could maybe all agree.
Mm.
So I think maybe we've concluded, or we can conclude, I hope, that if we don't overreach about the things on which we agree, because we all have so much in common,
right,
vastly more so than we have in different.
100%.
If we can all just start there and go one context at a time, we could maybe arrive at a place where we're not overextending our points of view on what people should and shouldn't do. For example, a baby needs its mother.
Right.
For a variety of reasons. First, to be born. Second, to feed.
I don't have any milk to give it. I don't have any milk to give it.
Right, so you can get around that. Someone's got to feed this thing. Anyway, you still at least have to be born. So somewhere between having to be born and learning things at home, wherever, whatever that means, somewhere between those two, you don't have to say a woman has to be the responsible party. Which means you definitely don't have to say a woman must stay at home, raise the kids till they're 20, whatever, or 10 or 15. You don't have to draw a line so far away, because this is where we get in trouble, I think, with what a gender role, what the value of a gender role,
right,
and what is expected of a person. The projection of that gender role into the future, into contexts that are irrelevant.
Right.
So a woman has to birth a child. Start there. That does not mean a woman can't have a job, which is what it used to mean, right?
Right.
We used to extend that all the way into, well, women can't do this, women can't do that, because of women had to do something else earlier. Well, I think we could eliminate that, maybe, and just walk our way back into the thing we agree on, and then slowly walk ourselves forward together.
100%. And I almost want to say it's a given, but apparently it's not, because we do very much live in a world. Yeah, you tell people, when women are different.
Yeah, culture is pretty heavy. Culture is heavy enough they can tell you, all right, so a person is 18, and they say a woman is 18, and says, I do want a job, I do want this, I do like that, I think this way, I must be a man. Culture is that heavy.
Which is horrible.
Well, it's kind of crazy.
Which is horrible.
I'll beg your forgiveness again, because now I need to be right back.
P P P P P P P